You're listening to the Platte River Bard.
Hello, and welcome to the Platte River Bard. This is Chris Berger.
And I'm Sherry Berger.
And I apologize that I couldn't be here for this interview.
Because you were at rehearsal in Lincoln.
That's right, and we'll be talking about that play next week. But Sherry went out and spoke to the cast of Collective Rage, A Rage in 5 Betties by Jen Silverman, which Voices in Alliance is producing starting November 7th. Now, this play will be performed at the Shelterbelt Theatre. The actors in this play are Jennifer Gilg as Betty 1, Madi Barker as Betty 2, Delaney Jackson as Betty 3, Shailoh Eggerson as Betty 4, and Amie James as Betty 5.
And she's also the costumer.
That's right. Now, thanks to all of the actors for talking with Sherry. And now, on to the interview.
Well, we are here because you are ready to be in rehearsal, and you're just 1 week away from the opening of this play. Oh, are you getting nervous?
I think we're just curious.
Yeah.
We don't have any idea how this is going to land. You know, we giggle through our rehearsals, but it's hard to explain to another person. It's hard to anticipate what they're going to think.
Yeah, it's getting to a point in rehearsals where you are so familiar with the punchlines and the jokes and the awkward little moments that make you giggle that, you know, you've got your stoic professional actor face on, and you have to remember that there are going to be a fresh set of eyes on this that are going to laugh, and you need to remember that they're going to laugh. I hope they laugh.
And this is a relatively new play written by Jen Silverman, right?
Mm-hmm. 2018.
Wow.
2018. Yeah, that's pretty new. Mm-hmm. And yet it has been done on Broadway, and then I know that it's been done overseas in London as well. So what would you say about this play if someone asked you, you guys are in a play, tell me about the play, I think I want to come see you, what would you say?
How are you with language? Yeah, it's very familiar. It's definitely a group of friends that know each other pretty well and speak to each other that way. So it's a good time, though. You can really feel the intimate energy in the room.
Right. And I think it's pretty poignant that this is a play about different kinds of females, right? So we've got Betty 1. Who's Betty 1, by the way?
That's me.
Jennifer is Betty 1. You're supposed to be rich in this play. Then we've got Betty 2, who's lonely. I'm sorry.
Very lonely.
And Betty 3, who's busy working on her truck.
Busy talking to the Betty working on her truck.
Oh,
Betty 3 is inventing a play.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Betty 4 wants to talk about love.
Oh, yeah. Love a girl.
And Betty 5 needs to hit something. Does that sound right?
I'm more the punching bag.
You're more the...
But she is the boxing coach.
Yes.
So she probably does her own hitting.
Yes, for sure.
And women are represented in this play also in different ways, including their sexuality, right? So we've got some different, just women of all walks of life in this play. And some of them, I was reading through some of the casting pieces of it. Some people have to be a certain ethnicity or race than others, right? So do you want to talk a little bit about that and maybe just some of the things that you've found as you're learning the lines of this play and kind of understanding what it was about?
Well, all of the Bettys do come from completely different walks of life, even from the same socioeconomic status. So, for example, Betty 1 and Betty 2 are both from the Upper East Side, and they have a fancy dinner party and talk about their nails, but one is ready to turn her rage into vengeance against a punching bag, and the other's on the brink of a tremendous mental breakdown. And then you have 3 other Bettys from, we can only assume, a poorer demographic, but one is very comfortable and content with her life. She works on her truck. She enjoys her day-to-day activities. The other has like an established boxing gym. She's getting back on her feet after, I assume, alcoholism or some kind of addiction. And then Betty 3 is ready to just escape and ready to explore something new. So it's interesting to see how each of us has brought in like the cultural aspects of those two communities, but made them so different and appropriate for each character.
It sounds like it's a lot of fun and it's got a lot of energy to it. How are you bringing your energy to your part on stage?
If I could just say, it is easy to be enraged as a woman these days.
Yes.
So I don't find it hard. My character has 3 or 4 monologues where I just kind of like spout off about things that are bothering me.
Right.
And yeah, so that's one of the things that I find it's easy to bring that energy because of what's going on in my environment.
Right. And this is a really timely play. I mean, I just voted today, so, and the election's next week,
But
so.
not political at all.
Not political.
It's bizarre. It's not political, and we are all coming from different gender identity or sexual identities, but it's not about that.
Right.
It's really, we just take each other for who we are, and there's no tension over it or conflict over it. It is just who we are, and we interact in a way that just is separate from those kinds of things that I'm sure are very important to those women, but it's not important to the play.
Yeah.
Got it.
Very yes and, like, you're genderqueer and, there's more that you expect from the other person. Yeah.
I would add also that with the characters, I feel as though there's a desire to be seen and heard from each and every one of us in a different aspect. For instance, my character, I want to be loved by someone that doesn't really notice me other than their friend or someone that they can count on. So that really touched me, being seen and being heard in this show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big theme.
Right. And I think collectively as a society, women do feel that way. And perhaps what they see as far as the rage goes is it's just been building, right? Mm-hmm. For us, for all of us women. It's just kind of been building over a period of time. And so perhaps when they see us finally blow, then they're like, oh, she blew. Yeah. Look at her, she's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. When actually, in actuality, it's been a slow boil. Tell us a little bit more about what you all have done in theater, because I know we've got 2 people here tonight, Jennifer and Delaney, who have been on the podcast before, and the other 3, now you've been on the podcast. Welcome. Tell us a little bit about what you've done in theater and why you wanted to take this role.
I graduated with a theater degree from UNO, and right after school I did a lot of local projects and started Witching Hour with the Blue Barn, their late night. Back in the day, we had a little late night devised theater, the troupe, and we did that for a number of years. And for me, I've been on hiatus for, maybe a decade because I had multiple children. And they're getting older now, and I just was like, I really want to dive back in.
That's
and
great.
When I read this piece for the costume design, I was like, I'm auditioning. So very excited to be in it.
Right. Do you have any different challenges as far as the costume designing goes at all, or? I haven't read the script, so I don't know.
The biggest challenge in this one is just trying to get goofy enough for one of our scenes where it's just going to be a really all-out crazy. It's a dress rehearsal, so there are going to be costumes, but they're all very silly.
Oh,
so,
fun.
But I wouldn't say they're too challenging. They're more a labor of love and a lot of fun.
Oh, fun. Wow, great. Dual roles. Anybody else want to tell us?
I'll go. Well, it's just interesting because I feel like my journey to theater is really different. So I didn't pick up theater until college. I went to Creighton and I minored in theater. I had a stage managing background actually for a couple of productions, and I didn't act until my very first show until 2022, and I was in Puffs. And so this is my now second show I've ever been in. So I don't have a whole lot of like acting experience. I did some like improv in college too, and I think I've learned that I love making people laugh, and I love comedies. And so when I heard about this show, I was like, I absolutely have to audition because I want to make people laugh. So
That's great.
that's a little bit about me.
I started when I was about 14 years old, doing acting lessons at the community playhouse. And then I think my first show that I did was Canterbury Tales my sophomore year of high school. And then I took a break junior year, and then I did some more musicals towards the end of high school, a little bit in college, and then within the last 2 years, I've done a couple shows. I've done one at the Benson Theater that was directed by a dear friend of mine, Alana Pommier. And then my most recent show was Sweet, directed by Denise Chapman for Great Plains Theater Commons.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And our podcast veteran.
No, I'm a veteran in many ways in this room. I am the elder statesperson for sure. I've been doing stuff in town for about 23 years, I think. And these days, I just look for well, first of all, I look for, is there a part for a woman over 40?
Right.
Because they are rare.
Right.
Or becoming more hard to find. And then the other thing, I just look at the work itself, and I had gone to all of Randall's other productions.
Yeah.
And he has not let me down yet, and I'm pretty picky about material and
Yes.
scripts. And he's got a good eye, so I thought I'd read it, and it just made me laugh. And every show I've done with only women has been a great experience, so I just couldn't pass it up.
That's great. Wonderful. And Delaney.
Yeah, I have been performing, not necessarily in theater, but performing in general for about the last 10 years. I started in speech or forensics in high school and quickly found DI, or dramatic interpretation. And from that point on, drama was my bread and butter. I mean, some people, when they need to let off steam, they'll go for a run or hit the gym, and I just sob and choke in front of dozens of people. That's my release. That's my catharsis. So I wanted to push myself and try something outside of my comfort zone. And I saw the audition notice for this production, and I was like, okay, this looks great. And it just so happened to, or rather the character that I wanted to audition for, Betty 3, which I got, whoa, the characteristics of her aligned with my life in ways that felt creepy. She, she's in a transition in her life, in employment, in creativity, in her sexuality. I recently came out as bisexual, and there's just this really strange universal energy that seemed to bubble around this particular role for me. And I was like, I have to at least give it a try. The worst thing that can happen is that people don't laugh, and oh well. I learned something about myself. So yeah.
Oh, that's great.
She's very funny. People will laugh.
Yes.
Thank you.
I've read that the script is pretty funny. And it's a good kind of escapism type play. If you want to escape the realities of life, it's a good one to see.
Yeah, I really love the way that Jen Silverman writes in this play as almost an abstraction. So you're the character, but you can step outside of yourself and look at yourself through like a list, of features that you hold. You're a stereotype, but then you're like, oh wait, no, I'm actually a person. And you can explore how stereotypes are true and they hold some, grounding in reality, but they aren't the entire picture as well. I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
She has a very unique voice. I don't know that I've ever read anything or been into any play that has her. It's very quirky, and I don't know what you ladies think, but I was thinking of Amy Schumer. Do you think maybe type humor?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit crass,
Yeah.
but it still feels very honest, and it feels
Yeah.
very, very conversational. But then when you're getting down to it and learning your lines, you're like, who talks like that. Because it's not like when I would say that sentence, it would not come out that way. So it's very interesting. It's been a little bit of a challenge for some of us having to learn lines in a speech pattern that isn't necessarily natural,
Right.
but still feels conversational.
Yeah. And so many of those conversational scripts are, the word placing is different, or maybe it's just a part of a sentence and you're waiting for somebody to say what, right? And then you've got to remember to let them say what. Like, yeah, the conversationalist kind is really hard. It's hard to do the verbatim. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
What's another challenge that you have had in this production?
To add on to Amie, I would say those little words that you forget, like yeah or those carry so much weight
make a difference.
in what you're not saying, what you're saying, what's going on in your head. So that's been a challenge for me. You can't. Every little word counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it just. Are you off book yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because it makes being off book so hard. I know. Oh, well, we're really excited about this play. And so it opens November 7th. And Randall is here with us, but he's not going to be on the podcast. But this is a really different kind of play for Voices in Alliance to do. And how exciting it is to be able to do this. And what a fun script.
I believe it's the first all-female show through Voices in Alliance, so that's pretty cool.
Yay, the
too.
first all-female. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing that. Yeah. And it just worked out today that Chris isn't with us. So we all of us girls decided to do this podcast today. So thank you for letting me be the sixth Betty today.
Yeah, sixth Betty, love that. The more Bettys, the merrier.
Exactly. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, Betties. It was just such a pleasure to talk to you about this and break all the legs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Collective Rage, a rage in 5 Betties by Jen Silverman, produced by Voices in Alliance Omaha, opens at the Shelterbelt Theatre on November 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. For tickets, go to viaomaha.org.
Thank you for listening and supporting the arts in the Platte River area and beyond. Please subscribe to our podcast so you are sure to catch all of our future episodes and join us on social media. See you next time on the Platte River Bard.